I wanted to talk about accessibility features as many businesses and organizations are moving to this remote online video conferencing world. Many of us are very fortunate to have our abilities, whether it's hearing or vision, and having enough that we don't need to use accessibility tools. That is not the case for 38 million people in the United States that have vision loss, vision impairment, suffer from seizures, so can't do certain things with contrasts or uh, things that are flashy and move a lot on the screen. So, as you are looking at providers to be able to connect with employees, connect with customers, connect with the public, then accessibility is something that is very important. And oftentimes it's one of those things that sometimes we don't think about or we take for granted. There are many web platforms that you can choose from when it comes to video chatting, video conference, web meetings, virtual meetings. But there's really only one company that has seemed to make a pretty good effort to assist this world in having a similar experience to what we have. When I looked at, there's some of the big ones. I was somewhat disappointed because GoToMeeting is owned by a company called Citrix. Huge, huge, has been around forever. And they didn't have nearly as many accessibility options as what I found that Zoom had. And Zoom is a newer company. So really, with when the Americans for Disabilities Act was passed, it was the 1990s. That applied to our physical world. That was handicap ramps, handicap spaces, um, ramps on the street corners so wheelchairs can wheel down and cross the street and wheel back up, opposed to having curbs everywhere and making it virtually impossible. Well, at that time, the world of web wasn't widely adopted. Smartphones didn't even exist. So that accessibility law wasn't even a thing. In the last couple years, web accessibility, digital accessibility has become more important. And this is something that, as business owners, as people that serve the community, serve the public, whether we're government, whether we're private, whether we're nonprofit, we should want to have the same experience for all of our customers. And that applies to people that you work with, that you teach, that you interact with, that may have those impairments as well. So if you have a workforce that has shifted from a brick and mortar, a physical place of business, and now they're working from home, accessibility is something to think about for those that need it. Based on what I've seen, I looked at several companies. There's a pretty big gap when it comes to web accessibility and making video conferencing not as difficult. If you are vision impaired and it takes several steps or clicks or interactions to install something, then that's hard. We have our vision, so we can see this is a link and we can see that we can go different places. But people that are visual impaired have to rely on what's called a screen reader. And screen readers are kind of painful if the site doesn't support it. I have a separate video that I talk about that, and it's painful. Like it's not easy at all. So it's our job to have websites, web pages, digital assets, PDFs, documents that screen readers can read. So the burden isn't on our customers or our employees to figure out what we're trying to say. So let's look at Zoom. I'll get off my soapbox. Sorry. Let's look at the accessibility features that Zoom has. Closed captioning. This is Zoom. I'm at zoom.us/accessibility to find this page. And I wholeheartedly feel that they are trying to do their best to serve and make this accessible for all. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect because we all have different standards. We all have different definitions of what that means. But I think they've made a pretty good effort. We design, develop, and test our products for accessibility in mind so users can meet happy. Closed captioning. Closed captioning will allow third-party connections to create captions, or it will allow you to turn on the closed caption feature for a meeting or a webinar. What that means is it doesn't automatically create captions for you. When you create closed captions, typically you have to have a system that listens and translates the words, like Facebook does for videos or YouTube does for videos, or you have to give the software what the captions are, which is basically what you're saying. So if you enable closed captioning for Zoom, that allows you to have a closed caption button, and so whoever wants to see the closed captions, it turns that on so the closed captions appear at the bottom of the screen, just like it would on your TV or a video. They are not automatically generated. So you have to have someone that's talking and someone else that's typing what that person is saying. So really there's kind of three things that you need to consider. One, if you want to turn closed captions on, you have to do that on your Zoom admin panel that's on the Zoom website. So that's where, if I have a Zoom account and I host meetings, I would sign in and I would go to, I'll link to this page so you can find it. If you go to this page, it actually tells you exactly what closed captions are. There's a video that explains it. It also says this is where you can do closed captioning. You can do it at an account level, so everyone has a closed captioning. You can do it group user. Starting closed captioning at the beginning of a meeting, entering the closed caption, and using closed caption in breakout rooms. These are the places that you can use closed captions. So if you click on that link, it gives you the details and a little video on how it works. For this to work, you need the person talking, the person that's typing the closed captions, and someone on the other side that would want to be able to read those closed captions. Nothing is automatic about it, but it is a feature that's valuable to those that are hard of hearing. Which, if you're on a web meeting, and it would be quite a challenge to read lips, I would think, especially the way I talk. Automatic transcripts. This is only for certain accounts in Zoom. There's the free account and then there's other tiers of accounts. And automatic translation only works for cloud recordings. You can't record locally to get this to work. And it only works for business, education, and enterprise licensing with cloud recording. So if you want automatic transcriptions, you can do that. It's going to take the audio version of what was said, and it will take that file and it will create the transcriptions. The closed captions are not going to be perfect. The transcriptions are not going to be perfect. Does it help? Absolutely. Does it save time? Absolutely. But I don't want you to have the expectation that it's going to have everything that you said right, that it's going to have the punctuation correct, because it just can't. There's a lot of subjectivity on how we talk in different accents and different tones and paces and all of these things that are factors, and it does the best it can. There are also transcription services that you can use. What's the name of it? Trine? I'll link to the ones that I've used in the past that are pretty good. And so this is where you, again, if you click that link from the accessibility page, it tells you a video about how it works. It goes into where you can use that, how to use that transcription, and how to set the settings and turn it on in your Zoom account, which again is on the Zoom website where you sign in and log into your account. And it's just the audio transcription. Now, the other thing is keyboard accessibility. This is important when people are visually impaired. They don't have a mouse. Often they have keyboards that have Braille, and they use shortcuts for what we would use as a menu. So instead of clicking a file menu with my mouse, which if I can't see, I cannot do, they know all of the shortcuts to open up a new tab, to open up a new window. These are keyboard shortcuts. It's the same thing in Windows. Everything that you can do with the mouse, every function, every copy, paste, edit, print, close, open, all of those have keyboard shortcuts. What I was really impressed by was Zoom has a lot of shortcuts. And to see those, you actually have to go into your Zoom client. And if I open my Zoom client, let me pull it over here. This is the desktop client. This is what you download and install so you can start meetings, schedule meetings. And if I go into settings, I go into the keyboard shortcuts. And these are specific to Zoom because there's no join meeting in Windows, no join meeting in Mac. So join meeting, that's a specific shortcut for Zoom. Start meeting, shortcut for Zoom. Some of these down here where you see enable global shortcut are commands that are specific to Mac. So if I already know how to mute my audio because I have a Mac, then just enable the global shortcut. Let them use what they're used to using. Push to talk, start and stop video, switch camera. All of these things that you see are these global commands. Most likely, if I have someone that uses keyboard shortcuts because they're visually impaired, they know these. They know how to look at, wow, these are global. I didn't know all these are global, like raise and lower hand. I guess that's a global shortcut that you can do on a Mac. Mac has really good accessibility features, by the way. So these are meeting specific ones. These are chat specific ones, screenshot. I can edit it if I want. I'd be careful with that because, so these are probably the global ones right here. And then if I wanted to edit that, I'm changing it. And if you hover over it, you see what that means. Control, Command, M. I didn't know what that little caret thing was. And it's not on the keyboard, so I wouldn't have figured it out. Chat, and then these are general. Close current window, switch portrait landscape, things like that. So these are keyboard shortcuts, which there's a lot of in Zoom. And then this is accessibility. So this is if I have low vision or I can't see that well, then I might want to increase the font as big as I can get it. So maybe I can't see a 14 or 16, but I can see a 32. So I have the ability to increase what my subtitles and my closed captions look like in my accessibility features, again, in my Zoom desktop settings. The other thing that's important is you can use Zoom with a screen reader. Like I said, screen reader support is challenging and it's painful. And if you ever listen to it, you understand how hard it is. Let me see if I can pull it up. While you're here, so real quick, it basically says screen reader support. You can use Zoom without a screen. They follow the latest accessibility standards to make sure it's fully accessible. And I believe them. And this is why. Because they have a process around accessibility and testing. They test each version of their platforms. So they're not just testing Zoom on the web, they're testing Zoom client meetings. They're testing Zoom rooms. So this is saying we tested this application 4.6.0 for client meetings. And this is all voluntary. This is not something that companies are forced to do. This is something that they made an effort to do. And this document from December 2018 goes through all of the things that they tested. And all of these things are accessibility controls, non-text content. There's 3 levels. There's level A, it's okay. Level AA, way better. Level AAA, best from accessibility. And these are all the things that they're testing. Info and relationships, meaningful sequence, sensory characteristics, use of color, audio controls, keyboard controls. It goes on and on and on. So they haven't done that just for one thing. They've done that for their mobile app. They've done that for Zoom Rooms. They've done that for web page extensions. They've done that for their plugin for Outlook. And I just don't think that's something you do unless it matters. Okay, so let me show you how painful this is. No, that's not it. Turn voiceover on or off. I thought I was in the right place. Where am I supposed to be?
Hello, my name is Samantha. I am an American English voice.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's great, Samantha. Here it is. Okay. Ready?
Web. Chrome. Accessibility. Zoom. Google Chrome. Bethany. Window. Accessibility. Zoom. Selected. Tab. You are currently on a tab inside of a group. To select this option, press Control Option Space. To exit this group, press Control Option Shift Up arrow. H. Happy meeting H. Happy meetings for everyone. Selected. Happy meetings for everyone. Unselected. You are currently on a text element. We design, develop, and test our products with accessibility in mind so that all users can meet tab. Selected. We design, develop, and test our products with accessibility. Getting started with closed captioning. Zoom Help Center. Web content. Chrome has new window. 46% loaded. 46% loaded. 46% loaded. You are currently on a web content inside of a group. To enter the web area, press Control Option Shift down arrow. To exit this group, press Control Option Shift up arrow. Link. Zoom video tutorials. Zoom video tutorials. Zoom Help Center. Web content. Chrome has new window. You are currently on a web content inside of a group. View live training. Selected. View live. Please click here to register for upcoming live training or access recent recordings for Zoom meetings, webinars, Zoom rooms, and administrators. Selected.
How painful is that?
Voiceover off.
That's a screen reader. That's a good screen reader on a company website that cares about accessibility. And it's painful. So just keep that in mind and be cognizant of the people you serve, the people you work with, and how you can make accessible easy or accessibility not as painful, because it's not fun. That's not fun. Let me know if you have any questions. I know this ran long. I'm sorry, but it's important. So let me know if you have questions. Thank you.